Hey guys, welcome to the Metal Emporium. I've been wanting to do this series where I just kind of show stuff that's in my collection. You know, everybody's always asked me what do I have in my pretty huge metal collection, music collection in general. I thought I'd start out first off with talking about the Metal Massacre comps that came out back it started in 1982 through Metal Blade Records. Metal Blade's very important label for heavy metal. Like I said, they started out in 1982 with their very first compilation, the Metal Massacre series. And a lot of famous bands have been on these collections over the years. Many of them, it was their first appearance on any kind of album at all. So I think there's been a total of 15 of them. They stopped at some point and picked back up. But I'm just going to do the first 10 because that's what I have in my collection. So the very first one, Metal Massacre 10, is actually, I have it on CD. This one has some pretty cool bands on it. This one was, what year was this? This was 1990. So this one has the band Betrayal on it. They look like they're from California. We've got Solitude from New Jersey. We've got Hollywood, California band Murder Car. I noticed some of the names on here. Ross Robinson's on guitar. I know he and Dave McClain is on drums. Ross went on. He was in Detente, and he went on to be a famous producer. Did like Slipknot and all kinds of stuff. And Dave McClain, drummer from the San Antonio Slayer. He went on to play with Machine Head and Sacred Reich, a whole bunch of different bands. Next up, we have Confessor from Raleigh, North Carolina, my home state. Big fan of Confessor, known these guys for years. They've got the song The Secret is on this one. This one, next up, is Dan Corlett. Seems like it's a New Jersey area band. Next, we have Nihilist from Atlanta, Georgia. Pretty interesting band here. They're a thrash band from Atlanta area. But two of the guys, Richard and Brett Turner, drummer and bass player, went on to be in the very famous southern rock band Blackberry Smoke. Next up, we have ROT, or Rot, and they're from York, PA, it looks like. And we have a band called Winch, which is from New Jersey. And then from Canada, we have the band Slaughter, which is not confused with the glam 80s band Slaughter. This is a thrash band, really kick-ass thrash band from Canada. And last on this one, we got IDK is featured on here. They're like their California band as well. So moving on, the rest of the ones I'm going to show you are all on vinyl. Metal Massacre 9. This was 1988. Here's the back of that one. Got a hockey-themed cover for that. So here we have Banshee, which would go on to sign with Atlantic Records later on. They were from Kansas City area. Kick-ass band. They got We Want You on this one. Another cool power metal band that went on to put out some cool records. Oliver Magnum. Old World Nights is on with this one. Another familiar name, Toxic, great thrash band from the New York area. Let's see, Dissenter is on here. This is a Los Angeles band called Dissenter. We've got Red Rum from California. A lot of California bands on here because Metal Blade was based out of California anyway. And then we have probably the worst band name that you could come up with. Pedophile, and we talk about pedophile and make jokes about them on Almost Human channel a lot, but yeah, and when you're coming up with a band name, it's like Pedophile. Wow. Yeah. So up after that, we have this band is called Chaos Horde. Next up is Faith or Fear with Dehumanizer. Faith or Fear, we're going to sign with Relativity Combat. Did a great record. I think it was like one and done record with them. We have a band called The Wrath, not Wrath, but The Wrath. which Midnight Madman is their song. And then we close out with Overdose. And not really sure where Overdose is from. Didn't really give the details on that. But that's Metal Massacre 9. Next up, we have Metal Massacre 8. And this one is from 1987. It starts off with a well-known band, Sacred Reich, with Ignorance. Of course, they would go on to sign with Metal Blade, and eventually with, I think they signed with Hollywood Records later on before they disbanded for a few years, and now they have reformed in the last 10 years and doing pretty well. But I always liked Sacred Reich, great band. We also have Viking on here, which is another just kick-ass thrash band. Overlord, another band from my home state of North Carolina. Keeper of the Flame, cool, just traditional heavy metal band from Fayetteville, North Carolina. They're actually back in business again as well. Next up, we have Fatal Violence. Looks like these guys were from Illinois. And then we have Tactics, another California band. I always look through here to see if I notice any of the names on here. And this one has Steve Gaines on vocals and bass. I know Steve had been in Abattoir. And I think Agent Steel at one point. Sanctum, Nothing Left by band Sanctum from California. Didn't recognize any names on that one. Next up is on side 2. It opens up with Gargoyle, Into Darkness. And that looks like they were from Portland area. Actually, I've heard these guys, some other stuff from them not too long ago, actually. Let's see, Houston, Texas band Ripper, Death Awaits You. Just kick-ass band. Really like these guys. I love their names. Death, Rob Graves, Sadie Payne, JD Shadows is the band members. But yeah, they have a kick-ass album as well. ESP is on here, another band. They look like they're from Connecticut. And then we've got War God. And War God's another California band, and their track is Intimate with Evil. And then we got SLN, Deadly Kiss from them. They're another California band. And then we close out with the New Jersey act Cobalt Blue. So that would close out Metal Massacre 8 for us. Coming up next, of course, Metal Massacre 7. These always had great album covers too, just old school metal covers. On this one, we've got, it starts off with Heretic, which would go on to do an album with Metal Blade, an EP and a full-length album. Some of these guys would go on to be in the band Reverend later on, and Mike Howe from Metal Church originally sang for them, but he's not on this one. It's actually Mike Torres, the lead singer, on this one. Up next, another well-known band that was with Metal Blade, Sentinel Beast, with excellent Debbie Gunn on vocals. After that, these bands I'm coming up with are going to be more familiar with them as we go backwards here, because most of them went on to bigger and better things. Next up is, on this one, is Flotsam and Jetsam, I Live You Die. Of course, that was Jason Newsted from Metallica's first band. Flotsam would go on to do a lot of great records, some stuff with Metal Blade, get signed to major labels, and they continue till today. We've got a Philly band on here that I always thought was a kick-ass band. They did another album they did with Metal Blade, a band called Crank. That's Crank with a K. Up next, we've got Madman from New York. After that, we've got Detente, and I mentioned Detente earlier. That was Ross Robinson I was talking about. This was his band with the excellent Don Crosby on vocals. Don would go on to sing for a band called Fear of God after Detente split up. Side 2, we've got Commander, High and Mighty, just a kick-ass metal band there. We've got Juggernaut, and Juggernaut was a Texas band. You had Bobby Jerzombek was in that band, famous drummers, played with, Halford and Fates Warning and Riot, of course, and I think he's playing with George Strait now, of all people. But Juggernaut, yeah, they had some cool records. I got several of their CDs in my collection. Next up, we got Cryptic Slaughter, another good crossover band there that put out several good records through Metal Blade. Then we have Have Mercy. Now, they were a Maryland-based band and good kick-ass thrash band. I've got a CD comp in my collection from them. The name that I recognized that was on here was Tom Maxwell. I know Tom went on to be in Nothing Face, and then he was in Hell Yeah, the band Hell Yeah with Vinnie Paul. Next up, we got Titanic, The Awakening. They were from New Haven, Connecticut, it looks like. Cool band. And it ends with a New Jersey-based band called Lost Horizon. So there we go with Metal Massacre. From there, we're going to go to Metal Massacre 6. Another cool album cover. This one's really hard to read. Red on gray. It doesn't show it, so bear with me here. But this one starts out with Swing of the X from Possessed. Just, legendary, just groundbreaking, early death metal band. They say the thrash, but they're pretty much early death metal. Next up is Florida's Metal Warriors, Nasty Savage with the song XXX, Triple X. I think that's the first song I ever heard by Nasty Savage. I used to listen to a college radio station. It was WKNC, which is still going in Raleigh, North Carolina, NC State station. They had Chainsaw Rock on Friday nights, and I used to record it. And I remember some of the songs that are in these collections, I remember hearing for the first time on that station. They would play them, and I remember them playing Triple X from Nasty Savage. Next up, band from Massachusetts that's pretty well known called Still Assassin. Kick-ass song called Executioner from them. We've got a band from Portland, Oregon, Tear Down the Walls by Mayhem. So it's not to be confused with the Norwegian black metal band Mayhem. These guys are from Portland, Oregon, U.S. band. And then just famous, traditional to thrash metal band from New Jersey, Hades. Hades closes out side one. This is Easy Way Out. And this is with, this one's actually got the original vocalist Paul Smith on it. But he's still got, Dan Lorenzo. He still carries the torch for that band. Dan's a cool guy, and yeah, some good stuff. Hallows Eve starts outside 2 on this one. We've got with Metal Merchants. Love those guys. They were from the Atlanta, Georgia area. Just a kick-ass, kind of thrashy band. Got all of their stuff that they put out back in the day. Next up, we've got a band from California, Hyrax. Just traditional, heavy metal, borderline speed metal thrash. Caton, the Penta is still fronting the band, and we did an interview with him a few weeks ago on Almost Human, and the song they're doing, Bombs of Death, I think that was the first song I ever heheard by them, and I heard that on Chainsaw Rock as well. Up next we have a band called Fountain Keeper is the name of the song. Like I said, this is hard to read. Pathfinder actually is the band, and they're a Canadian band. From there we have Dark Angel, just another band that's just went on to bigger and better things. Great thrash band. Welcome to the Slaughterhouse, and that's with the original vocalist Don Dottie. Then next up is a Maryland-based band, The Obsessed, which Obsessed went on to be classic, just well-known, legendary doom stoner band with Scott Wino from the who went on to be in St. Vitus for a while. Just really good stuff from them. It's Concrete Cancer is the song that they do on this one. And the album closes with a group called Martyr. And like I said, this is really hard to read. I can't see much detail on Martyr. But that'll close out that one. Next up, we've got Metal Massacre 5. I really like that cover. That's a really cool one. So this one starts off with the legendary Omen. Omen doing Torture Me. We've got Voivod with Condemned to the Gallows, track from that goes back to their demo days. Voivod from Canada. Love those guys. Then we've got Attacker from New Jersey. Love Attacker, man. Just a great band. The song is Call on the Attacker. Just a great traditional heavy metal band. Next up, we got Future Tense. They're actually from the Netherlands, and with a song called Nightmare. Then New York's Overkill is on here with Death Rider, and that's like one of their earlier tracks from their demos as well. And that side one closes with Connecticut band, one of my favorites, Fate's Warning, doing Soldier Boy. Love Fate's Warning. Side two starts out with Metal Church with a track called The Brave, which is from their demo days. It wasn't on any of their albums. I think that song ended up on the, if I remember, it was on the Decline of Western Civilization, the Metal Years movie soundtrack. Next up, we got Lethal Sin. And they're a California band. And then we've got Final Warning with The Warrior. Always liked that track. It was a cool track. Another California band. And then next up is Hellhammer, which is pre-Celtic Frost. We all know Hellhammer. It's just from their demos. This was the song Crucifixion. And then this next up is Mace, which is a cool thrash band. They were from the Seattle area, and they've got it's a cool crossover thrash sound. And the album actually ends with Gestures of Destiny. They were kind of a strange band. They were on Metal Blade as well, but that'll close out Metal Massacre 5. Moving on to Metal Massacre 4, another great cover. This one starts off with Sacred Blade, just a kick-ass band. They were from Canada. And then we've got Death Dealer, another Canadian band. That's Death Dealer. They would change their name to Death Dealer, D-E-A-F Dealer, and release an album through Metal Blade, which I've always just loved. Just a kick-ass record. They do Cross My Way on here. It's from their demo days. Great band. Follows up Trouble with The Last Judgment. Trouble's one of my favorite bands. It's a great doom band from the Chicago area. Love those guys. The Last Judgment at the time, that was an unreleased track by them at the time. Next up is Scepter, Taken by Force. And after that, we've got E-Trope. E-Trope is from a Chicago-based band, kind of a crossover thrash band. Just cool band. Barry Stern on vocals and drums. They did a couple more albums through Combat later on. Barry would eventually become the drummer in Trouble, I just mentioned a while ago. And then we've got Warcry doing Forbidden Evil. Pretty cool band. They're from Illinois as well. Side 2 starts out with Abattoir, Screams from the Grave. Just kick-ass speed metal band from California. Just always love these guys, man. They just great stuff. And this one actually has the original singer is John Cyrus, who would go on to be the singer for Agent Steel. Steve Gaines would replace him before the first album would be released. Up next, we've got Witch Slayer, I Don't Want to Die. Cool band from Illinois. Well-known band here from the Metal Blade roster is up next. Lizzie Borden with Rod of Iron. Rod of Iron is one of my favorite Lizzie Borden songs. Just a great track. Up next, California band called August Red Moon, which that August Red Moon album is a one-and-done record, and it just kicks ass all the way through. But yeah, they're featured on here with a song called Fear No Evil. And then we have another Illinois-based band called Thrust with Destructor. Always liked Thrust. They had a record through Metal Blade called Fist Held High. Just great, just high-energy metal. Love that. And the record closes out with a band called Medieval from Kalamazoo, Michigan. That's it for that one. Coming up next, we've got Metal Massacre 3. And with the Tombstone cover here. It starts out with Slayer. This might be the first appearance of Slayer on vinyl, I believe. And they're doing Aggressive Perfector. Of course, they're going to bigger and better things. Bitch is on here with Riding in Thunder. Betsy Bitch and her band. They were on previous Metal Massacres as well. Cool band. Then we've got Tyrant with the Battle of Armageddon. Great kind of doomy, just heavy metal band from California. Just always loved their stuff. Their debut album, Legions of the Dead, is a favorite, and I've always loved that one. Then we've got Medusa, which is another California band. And then next up is Test Pattern with Bite the Knife. And Black Widow is featured on here with the song Blitzkrieg, and they're another California band. Side 2 starts out with Warlord, and they're doing Miss Victoria on this one. They've been featured on previous ones as well, but just a great band, Warlord. Miss Victoria is a great track from them. Then we go with Virgin Steel, and Virgin Steel is doing Let's Go All the Way. That's Jack Starr's old band. Of course, Virgin Steel would go on and do a whole lot of different records, and kind of just traditional heavy metal, up and down, power metal, change their sound a little bit over the years. They're a little more straightforward hard rock back in their early days. I've got a lot of their early records as well. Next up is a band called Sexist, S-E-X-I-S-T, Sexist, with Firewind. And, this band has a little interesting history. None of these guys are actually on this recording, but at one point, Gilby Clarke was supposedly in this band, and so is Jakey Lee. Some of the guys went on to be in a band called Lechen Grey later on. It's kind of known in the underground metal world. Next up is Snow White, and they're just a good, traditional heavy metal band, a little borderline speed metal at times. They would change their name to Snow White with a Z, so it'd be Snow White. And of course, the guitarist, Ian Tafola, he would go on to do the band Cyclone Temple some years later. Next up is Southern California band Marauder, and cool, just kick-ass heavy metal there. And then the album ends with a band called La Mort, and they're from California as well, with Fist and Chain. All right, so now we're getting down to the final two. We have Metal Massacre 2 here. This is from 1982. This one is, it starts out with Armored Saint, with the song Lesson Well Learned. Of course, Armored Saint, great band from California, just great heavy metal band, well known. This one, the next song up on this one is Third Stage Alert with Mind Invader. I know they did a record with Metal Blade, because it's in my collection as well. I know Yngwie Malmsteen produced their first full-length record. After that, we have Surgical Steel with Rivet Heads. They were an Arizona-based band. They had a lot of people that kind of went through their ranks through the years. Jeff Martin was the lead singer, and he would go on to front Racer X. Greg Chasin is on bass on this track, and he would go on to do Badlands. I think he was in Keel at one point. Up next we have Obsession, and another band that did several records through Metal Blade and Enigma. That was Mike Becerra's band. Just a kick-ass band. Shadows of Steel is the song here. My favorite's their first EP, Martial Law. Just love that one. And then we have a band on here called Overkill. Now, this is a different Overkill. This is the California-based Overkill. Sounds nothing like the New York-based Overkill with Bobby Blitz's band, that we all know. But it's still a kick-ass record. I've actually got their CD. I think they did a one-and-done record as well. Side 2 starts off once again with Warlord. They're doing Lucifer's Hammer on this one. Another kick-ass track from Warlord. Next track up is Trauma with Such a Shame. This is the band that Cliff Burton came from. Metallica saw Cliff playing in Trauma, and they basically were like, we got to have this guy. And Cliff is featured on this track. He is playing on this track. Next up is a band from California, Dietrich, with It's All Right. Then we've got a New York-based band called Molten Leather with Inversion, followed by Hyksos. I don't know how to say this. It's Hyksos, but the band seems to be another California-based band. I don't recognize any of the names on it for anybody who went on to anything else. But the album ends with a band from Hawaii with the perfect name Aloha, and this is Marty Friedman's band. Marty moved out to Hawaii and ended up playing with these guys before he kind of started his solo career and doing his instrumental records long before he was ever in Megadeth. Yeah, female fronted band with Marty Friedman on lead guitar. So that's Metal Massacre 2. Now, this brings us to probably the most important indie release record as far as compilation ever. This is Metal Massacre 1. This is my original first pressing. It's in excellent shape. This was from 1982, and this one starts out with Steeler, Ron Keel's old band that he had with Yngwie Malmsteen eventually, but Yngwie's not on this track. It's Ron with a different band that would go on to record the first Steeler record. Followed by Bitch, Live for the Whip. Bitch would go on to do other things with Metal Blade as well. Long career. Followed by Malice. Malice has actually got 2 tracks on here. The first track is Captive of Light, but just a good kick-ass heavy metal band. Up next we have Tell the World by Rat. This is might be Rat's first appearance on vinyl. Of course, this lineup is Stephen Pearcy, Robin Crosby, Warren DeMartini. The drummer is Kurt Mayer, and the bassist is Matt Thorne, who Matt's still playing with Stephen Pearcy's solo band today. Matt would go on to be in Rough Cut. After that, we have Avatar, not to be confused with the pre-Sabotage band Avatar from Florida. Not exactly sure where these guys are from, but they have a song in here just called Octave. Pretty cool song. Side 2 on this one starts out with Cirith Ungol, and it has an unreleased track, Death of the Sun, because Cirith Ungol had already released Frost and Fire, their debut album, by then. And this track wasn't on there, so this is an exclusive track that they provided for the Metal Massacre comp. And next up we have Demon Flight with Dead of the Night, kick-ass track there. Pandemonium is on here. They were from Alaska. Very cool band, did a few albums for Metal Blade. And once again, Malice, Kick You Down. And then the highlight of this record, the most famous band to be on any of the Metal Massacre comps, Metallica with Hit the Lights. And this is the original version. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but Metallica is spelled wrong. It's spelled with 2 T's. You got Mettalica. So from what I understand, the story was Brian Slagle, the guy who started Metal Blade and put all this together, he was, going to get this track from Metallica. Lars kept telling him, I got a track for you. And he showed up at the last minute with it, supposedly. And it's listed as James Hetfield, Dave Mustaine, Ron McGovney, but they've got Ron McGovney spelled wrong. They got Ron McGorney on bass, Lars Ulrich drums, and Lloyd Grant on guitar. But supposedly this was really, from what I've read, was just James Hetfield on vocals, rhythm, and bass, and Lars on drums, and then they brought Lloyd Grant in to do the solos for it. And so later pressings of this would have a different version of Hit the Lights that actually does feature Ron McGovney and Dave Mustaine on lead and bass. And I think they removed Steeler and Rat from these. Actually, I have a version of that on CD. This is the CD version that came out later on. And they replaced the Rat and the Steeler song with Chains Around Heaven by the band Black and Blue. So there's definitely it's a couple of different pressings of this with this cover, and then there's a Canadian version that's just got a silver cover that says Metal Massacre. I'd love to find one of those one day to add to the collection. But definitely, yeah, Metal Massacre introduced so many bands to just a world of heavy metal. I mean, so many underground bands out there, and some of these bands went on to do bigger and better things. Some of the members went on to do that as well. But yeah, it all started somewhere. And yeah, so if you know, this is something you can get into, you can start checking out. I'm sure you can find most of this stuff online and check it out. But yeah, appreciate you joining us. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and you know, come back and see more content. Hopefully I'm going to start adding more to it and just talking about things that's in my collection. So yeah, stay metal.